Doing something a little bit different today. Normally I'll shoot at sunset and very occasionally at sunrise. I'm trying to condition myself to start getting up early. Trouble is I'm an early bird and I'm a night owl, which doesn't work. So I've got to figure out what the hell I am and stick to that for a while. I love shooting at dawn. But I've decided to do something different today, and I've actually come out in the middle of the day for a couple of reasons. One, I just wanted a break from my bloody computer and all my work. But I also wanted to experiment with some particular shots with my new Air 2S, tracking the car and that sort of stuff, which I was scared shitless about, of course, because the last time I tried using the tracking feature on it and following my car, it ended in disaster with my first major crash. But it was a success this time, until it exceeded its maximum flight distance, and then it just stopped. And I had the screen of the remote sitting on the passenger seat of the car, and I sort of glanced across and thought, hang on a minute, I'm miles away from the camera now. The drone had reached its maximum flight distance and just stopped there. It kept recording and it hovered there, which was good. It didn't sort of get confused and nick off to another suburb. But I had to turn around and go back and then control it and land it and that sort of stuff. But at least no crashes. But that's one reason I decided to come out at this time of day. Well, a couple there. Get away from the computer, experiment with some few shots. But also, I just wanted to see, given that it's not always convenient for all of us to go out at dawn or at sunset, we've got other commitments and stuff. I wanted to see what kind of opportunities existed in the middle of the day. Now, I know on an overcast day when you've got moody lighting, you can get great shots and you can shoot all day, especially in woodlands. But what happens when the sun's out like this, and you've got lots of directional light? I mean, it's autumn here in Australia now, so the light is fairly low and it's fairly diffuse a lot of the day, but right now it's not. Right now it's crystal clear and there's a fair bit of contrast. So I thought I'd come here first and see what kind of opportunities exist here, because not all landscape shots need to be taken at dawn or dusk. You can, and they don't have to be overcast conditions either to shoot in the middle of the day. You can actually shoot some pretty dramatic landscape shots in the middle of the day under bright sunlight. You just need to pick your subject, pick your angle, pick your lens, and in many cases isolate your subject and pluck out one element of the scene that works in a high contrast environment. And you're not limited, of course, to shooting in colour. If you don't like blue skies in your images, well then you can make it a mono image. You can make it a black and white image. It doesn't have to be colour. Likewise, you can play around with the colour of the sky in Lightroom or Photoshop. You can put a graduated filter down there, and there's all sorts of things that you can do. So you're not entirely without choice when it comes to shooting on a bright sunny day in the middle of the day. I'm going to have a quick wander around here. I spent most of my time here playing with my drone, but I might wander around here and just see if there are one or two shots. I think there might be one or two shots here that I can get. And then if I have time, I'm going to move on to a national park close to my place called, of all things, Woodlands. I just recently received Nigel Danson's fantastic book called Woodlands, and I wrote to him to thank him for it and to give him my thoughts. And it was ironic because it actually inspired me to get back out in the woods, where I used to shoot a lot of my images when I was a lot younger. I loved just wandering around in the bush and just plucking out little micro scenes out there amongst the environment. It was lovely. I didn't need to go for the grand vistas. The grand vistas were few and far between. It was usually just little isolated pockets of the bush that I photographed. So I said to Nigel that he inspired me to get back out into the woodlands again, and ironically the nearest wooded area in my area is called Woodlands Nature Reserve. So that's where I'm going to go. If it's not today, it'll be in the next couple of days. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wander off, have a look around here, and see if there are one or two images that I can pluck out at 1:40 p.m. on a bright sunny autumn day here in Australia. All right, probably got a nice dirty ass now sitting on that. Let's see what we can see. Right, so this farm property here used to have a house, like most farm properties, but it burned down a couple of years ago. So what we have is a row of trees here lining what used to be the entrance to the house, the driveway to the house. So I'm just wondering if there is a simple dramatic photo opportunity here on one of these trees or this row of trees, despite this bright contrasty light. Oh, there's a massive eagle circling up there in the sky. Is huge. I doubt very much you're going to see it. I find that dead trees or trees with particularly colourful bark can be good on a bright sunny day in a contrasty lighting situation like we have here. Not as contrasty as we would at summertime, but it is a very clear day and it is fairly contrasty. Now in situations like this, usually a very small element of a scene or a subject can work really well. And I'm talking about, things like the bark on a tree or any textures that you see or anything with a particularly vibrant colour. Especially if you can shoot with a long lens, blur out your background, and then, you can give it some depth, give it some punch. Man, there's cow shit everywhere here. It's going to be impossible not to walk some of this into my car. It's funny, I came down this driveway a few nights ago and it was dark by the time I'd finished shooting, and I had my head torch on and I saw this little green spotlight glowing in the grass below a tree, like an animal's eye reflecting in the light. And I thought, I've seen that before somewhere, and I realised, pardon my sunnies, and I realised I'd seen that many, many years ago when I was out in the desert shooting the Australian Safari. It was a desert race, 10,000 kilometre desert race. So driving through the night to get back to camp or to get on to the next camp, I saw a few of these on the road, I remember, and I got out of the car because I'd been seeing them for a while, and I got out of the car and I walked up close and it was a big spider in the middle of the road. And there were just spiders that came out onto the road at night because the desert's very hot, but then at night it gets quite cold. So they come out onto the road surface to warm up again. So when I was walking down this old driveway here, I walked up close and sure enough it was a big spider. And I turned my head torch and looked onto the ground and there were little green dots everywhere. It was basically a carpet of spiders. Now one advantage of course of shooting at this time of day is that you can handhold for the most part, depending on what you're shooting. Certainly something like this where I'm going to shoot with a fairly wide aperture and shallow depth of field, I can easily handhold that regardless of the size lens that I'm using. So that's good, but the light is harsh. I mean, look at that. But it might just work on this tree, and I'm happy to give it a go. So let's see what I can get with this. I just want to stop any extraneous light coming in. Put my glasses down there. I actually need to get back just a little bit. So let's all move back a little bit, shall we? There we go. Actually, this is about the right height too. You know what? I think this calls for the nifty 50. I love my little RF 50mm. I don't make drug money, so I don't have the 1.2. I have the 1.8, which is more than sufficient for my needs. I don't need that extra bit of light. This is more than enough for me. Okay. I'm going to shoot one at f8. Alright. Yeah, so this is one of those shots that's looks pretty crappy through the viewfinder. You really need to get it into Lightroom before you can start to see any real potential in it. Well, if you've been shooting for years, you can tell if something's got potential or not. But right now it looks pretty ordinary. I think I'm going to shoot all 3 of these. I've got 3 of these little trees here. Let me show you. So we've got a sort of like a trio of them. So I'm going to try each one. I may as well get you over here now. And just see what we come up with. Who knows? I actually love this dry grass, so I'm going to actually make that prominent in the foreground. Geez, I better not step backwards. God knows what I'll step in. I know what I'll step in. It'll be horrible and it'll stink. I also like that turned soil over there, so I'm just going to stand up a little bit on this, if it doesn't tip over. See if I can just get a little bit of that in the background. There we go. Not sure I want to photograph that one. I think I'll just stick with this one. Although it does have a nice lean to it. But I have to get rid of these bits of wood that someone chopped down. Ooh, gee, that is rotten wood. Hopefully no snakes under them. Whenever you have a tree that's arching, it's always nice to have it arching into frame. That's not to say you should always do that, because rules are to be broken, as you know. But generally, it's the same with shooting people who are turned to one side. You generally have them turned into frame, so they're looking into the frame with some space in front of them. It's just what, you just got to consider what the human eye likes to see, what it expects to see. Yes, you can surprise the human eye sometimes, but is it going to enjoy the surprise? That's the question. You can do something in the spirit of creativity, but if it doesn't resonate, then you've got to wonder what's the point. It's easy to be different if you just, do something that's the opposite of what looks nice or what works. But then it defeats the whole purpose. I can see some dead tree branches rising up out of the scene over in the distance there. And we've got grass in the foreground, so I might take a shot actually with a long lens, blur out the grass in the foreground and get those dead trees in the background and just see what that looks like. That might be cool. Gee, it's so weird having ample light to shoot. I'm shooting at 400mm here and 100 ISO, and I've got 400th of a second at f10. It's weird. Maybe stabilizer on? Didn't think it was. That's better. Need to get a bit closer, get the grass out of frame and just have the soil instead. Then I've got power lines. I think maybe just here. Well, that looks kind of cool actually. I need to shoot wider. I want to blur out more of the foreground. So now we're looking at 2500th of a second at f5.6, 100 ISO. Actually, we've got 2000th of a second, f5.6, 100 ISO. Definitely don't have to worry about image stabilization at those speeds. If you're shooting on a bright sunny day and you don't have a subject like a really, gnarly dead tree or something with bright, strong colors in it that you want direct sunlight on, well then, consider what you can shoot that's backlit. Even in the middle of the day, if you're in a wooded area, for example, you can get some lovely shots shooting up through the canopy of trees. You can usually find something that looks great backlit. It could be even, something that's reasonably macro. It could be, some dry grass. It could be, dead leaves on a tree. All sorts of things, It could be a body of water that you can capture an interesting composition with if you play around with your polarizer, for example. So there's always opportunities, Don't be disheartened if you can't go out at sunset or at sunrise, A lot of us either can't do it because of our personal commitments or just because it's too bloody hard. We want to get out, We want to enjoy nature, but we don't want to have to get up at a sparrow's fart to shoot dawn scenes if that's not our thing, you know. Likewise, you know, maybe we don't want to be out shooting at sunset when we would prefer to be having dinner with our family, or, you know, taking the kids to soccer practice, or whatever it happens to be. So don't be disheartened if you can't shoot at dawn or at dusk. A lot of us can't. And I've got to say, it's kind of nice to come out in the middle of the day for a change. You know, of course the light's not as special as dawn or dusk, but that doesn't mean the images don't have to be special. You can still get some fantastic images. And of course, you know, like I said, a lot of the time you can handhold your images, which kind of gives you a lot of extra freedom to just wander and shoot and crouch and, you know, move about and try different compositions very, very quickly without having to set up a tripod all the time. So there are benefits to it for sure. So that's it for another video. Shooting at midday. Something different. Kind of nice actually. In fact, right now I feel like I'm in Spain. The weather is just gorgeous. But anyway, it's been nice having you along. Thanks for coming out with me today, and I'll see you in about a week's time. See ya.